The riddle of the Sphinx is among the earliest known riddles of human history, but today I have a riddle of my own. What do you get when you throw a dark-humored meme, a disgruntled 4chan member, and an unsuspecting Slender Man victim into a blender? You get something awful, which isn't just a pun, but the name of a website that was a catalyst to all three of those things. But its past is dark, with many untold truths. Join me for this episode, where we unravel its darkness like a thread to meet its violent ends. Welcome to the Untold Truths Online Trolls. Chapter 1. 1999 was a magical year. It encompassed the Y2K scare, while artists like Eminem and Slipknot released their debut albums. Tiger Woods swung his way into his first PGA championship, while Tony Hawk landed the first 900 during the X Games. The Matrix hit theaters, and Napster hit the internet, for those of you who remember it. Within this combustive year of greatness emerged a little-known website that would go on to forge the very nature of the internet itself. Its name? Something awful. It was an edgy, dark-humored, blog-like website that hosted comedic articles and satirical reviews on poorly made websites, video games and movies, as well as images, parodies, and pranks. But what made this website special was its forums. This is where the community socialized, often to crack jokes and make fun of each other. This included Notch, the creator of Minecraft. It was also where Slender Man and Chuck Norris facts were created, and where the early prototypes of modern-day memes emerged. But every piece of good comes an equal or greater amount of bad. You see, Something Awful was also home to some of the most prominent modern-day trolls. This included Moot, the founder of the troll platform called 4chan, Null, the creator of another troll platform called Kiwi Farms, which we delve into in a future episode, and the Twitter famous troll named Drill. It was also home to several murderers, within an endless sea of drama between the waves of shits and giggles. And within this context, as Shakespeare put it, these violent delights have violent ends. Among the most sickening of these cases was Kevin Underwood, an Oklahoma man with sick, perverted fetishes he could no longer contain. He lured a 10-year-old girl into his apartment on April 12th, 2006. Once she was inside, he beat her over the head with a cutting board, suffocated her, sexually assaulted her, and then tried, but failed, to cut her head off with a decorative dagger. He admitted to having these sick sexual fantasies that involved torturing, raping, killing, and eating his victims. He was convicted in less than 1 hour and is alive, but on death row. But I digress. As the passage of time rolled on, Something Awful's popularity dwindled like a flame within a dying blaze. The Julius Caesars of the internet, like Meta, X, and Reddit, relentlessly conquered their user base, and the once untouchable kingdom that it was became a shell of what it used to be, at least at face value. Here on The Untold Truths, we push the envelope and look at the darkness within. There's a deeper, darker story to be told, and I'm here to tell it. Chapter 2. We rewind back to 1999. Enter Richard Kyanka, nickname Lotax, a 23-year-old college dropout that wrote Quake articles for a living. He was fired from his job at Planet Quake once he posted derogatory comments on their website about a female colleague of his. He was then out of a job, but not out of a hobby. Months prior to being fired, he created a personal website for himself, and he called it Something Awful. Yes, Richard was the one, the only founder, CEO of the legendary website. He started off as a lone wolf, writing comedic articles under a fake persona known as Cranky Steve. But soon, the website grew. More writers came on board. New members signed up, and things were bustling like never before. He knew this was his chance to make it big. He ventured down the roads of monetization by charging a fee to access the forums, selling merchandise and advertising space. And it worked. He made bank. His cash flow was like a never-ending river, but he loved to drive straight into the blinding lights of drama and never looked back. It didn't come without criticism. His sense of humor was at times over the top, dark, and grotesque. For example, for his Alone in the Dark movie review, he wrote, "A movie by a stupid German jerk who is stupid and smells and probably molests dead children. Although if that last part is considered slander and or libel in Canada, then just disregard it and pretend it actually said he molests living children instead." This was a trash-talking tactic to provoke Uwe Boll, the movie's director, in anticipation of a boxing match between them long before the days of Logan Paul versus KSI.
So, Richard Kyanka looking for the crowd's approval in a sense. Ooh, you're not going to win any fans by that one, that's for sure.
We could also discuss Richard's verbal attacks on Notch, the founder of Minecraft. But I'd like to direct your attention to his life of romance instead. After his newfound internet fame, the Something Awful forums became his own Tinder. The first girl was named Emily. Richard proposed to her, but she rejected him. I'd like to say that Richard avoided a bullet because Emily allegedly cheated on him with another member. But as we shall soon see, it was actually her that was the one whom dodged the bullet. He went on to propose to another community member, but she too rejected him. After they broke up, her nudes were anonymously leaked online. Fast forward and we arrive at Megan Austin. She was an Asian American kindergarten teacher and the first girl not to reject Richard's marriage proposal. They married in 2005 and had 2 daughters together. Richard had it all: a successful business with money beyond his wildest dreams, a loving marriage, and 2 beautiful daughters. But this is when the threads unraveled and the smudge of darkness seeps in. On a Tuesday night, 2013, Richard and Megan were sitting in bed, their daughters asleep between them. Richard had a few drinks, so he was feeling good, and Megan was texting on her phone. But for some reason, Richard didn't like that. He wanted to see who she was texting. He forcibly grabbed the phone by dragging his nails into her hand, grabbed her by the throat, and pushed her back. It turns out Richard was a domestic abuser. Scared, Megan ran out of the house with her daughters and called the police. The next year, she ran out of the marriage by calling for a divorce. We now have to ask ourselves, how much of his over-the-top dark humor was simply satirical and lighthearted, and how much of it was really a broken man expressing himself behind a wall of insecurities? It's a question I leave for you, my dear truthers, to answer. Ashley, known online as Maple Wife, was a Canadian girl that became Richard's next victim. Richard married Ashley a year after his divorce and settled down by having a child with her, another daughter. Things were great until they weren't, and he continued his patterns of abuse. He tried to get physical with her a couple of times, but she was 5'11", in shape and weightlifted, making her physically his equal, if not stronger, according to a forum post Ashley made on the website. Therefore, in Ashley's own words, his abuse was mostly emotional, financial, verbal, with lots of intimidation like punching holes in the wall, throwing and breaking things, screaming in my face. Eventually, it was Richard who decided to leave her by filing for divorce by the end of 2019. Around this time, he began dating a new girl from within his community. Her name was Logan, and Richard abused her too. But it turns out, hitting her was the biggest mistake of his life. Fast forward to 2020. Ashley has since fled to a women's shelter, and Richard and Logan were happily living together until he violently slapped her in the face, causing her to collapse on the floor on June 23rd. Logan escaped to a hotel for the night and made a quickly deleted Facebook post stating, "Got backhanded to the ground and feared for my safety." Afterwards, she made an Instagram video saying she lied.
I feel compelled to make a video explaining that Rich didn't abuse me. I'm in a safe place.
But Richard's followers didn't buy it. Once the news broke, his Patreon went from $7,500 a month to less than $1,000. This was bad for Richard, really bad, because he used to think the party would never end and wasted money like there was no tomorrow. But now his Patreon's revenue vanished. His website revenue vanished. And he was in the midst of an expensive divorce. Not to mention, he owed several years of back taxes that he couldn't afford to pay. Logan was the wrong girl to mess with. She later admitted Richard forced her to make the video and that Richard did, in fact, abuse her. She went on a crusade like never before and spilled the beans on the Something Awful forums on all things awful about Richard. It turns out his left nut was smaller than his right. He never did housework and went on drunk tantrums by rage emailing his soon-to-be ex-wife. Richard's reputation was put through the meat grinder, and it was still churning. Because of this, he was forced to sell his website to a 15-year-long member, Jeffrey, of YOSPOS on October 9th, 2020. The months rolled on, Christmas passed, and the new year begun. But from here on out, there's no happy tale to tell, and no happily forever after ending. His mental health collapsed. His reputation was shot. His business lost. His girlfriend gone. He had no wife, had little to no contact with his children, and he was in the midst of a messy divorce that froze access to some of his money. On top of it all, his mother was battling against a terminal illness. The straw that broke the camel's back occurred on November 8th, 2021. The judge in charge of his divorce case made her decision. He was ordered to pay his ex-wife $92,000 up front and an extra $5,200 monthly for the next 2.5 years. On top of that, he was ordered to pay $350 a month in child support and $25,000 in lawyer fees. But not only that, the judge formally acknowledged Richard's abuse of his ex-wife, and it was also revealed that he wasted almost $500,000 just to prevent Ashley from getting any of it. The next day, he blew his brains out. Richard's chapter came to an end. But it was no rash decision. Nearly 4 months prior, he foreshadowed his suicide on Discord. In his own words, he was 5 years behind on taxes with no way to pay for it. He was going to live it up and go out happy because life is stupid. He said he was debating live streaming his suicide, but he never did. Chapter 3. So there you have it. Something awful caught lightning in a bottle, and something magical radiated from it that forever changed the course of the internet. We see this magic when we look at memes, play Minecraft, or get lost in the stories of Slender Man, because as you now know, all of those things have roots in something awful. But so does the modern-day culture of trolling, including 4chan and Kiwi Farms, which we discuss in future episodes. But as things stand, Richard is dead, and Something Awful is an empty shell of its former self. void of the energizing magic that once fueled it. But that concludes this episode of The Untold Truths. Join me next time as we delve deeper into the dark world of online trolls and all that encompass it. And remember, you're the frog in the boiling water, and I'm the chef, slowly turning up the heat.